Is that better? Can you hear me now? Aha. Right. Oh, the audience has doubled. 2 people. Hello, second person. This was the 666 stream, and then 3 more people went and spoiled it. 4 people. 4 people say hello, so I know who you are. Don't be shy. Come on, you can do it. Who's out there and where are you in the world? Scared one away. Not talking to me. Nope. Anyway, see if anybody else turns up. So I thought we'd just have a look at a few things. As any of you watch my videos know, I like to collect albums from all around the world. And it's an expensive thing to do. It also means buying from abroad a lot, because that's a lot cheaper than buying the same thing from a dealer here in the UK. So why the fascination with it? As you probably saw my video on the On Stage album. So of course that's the album we all know. Oops. And then of course this one's from Turkey. And I explained my theory as to why they did this in my video. Yep, I've got my On Stage, On Tour box. Definitely worth getting, though it is expensive. I mean, it is the definitive set as far as the soundtrack goes. And it is well done. I know there's been some complaints about it. Missing Ronnie Tutt off the credits was ridiculous. But other than that, I have no real complaints. It's nicely done. As I said before, the only thing I really was disappointed with is that they didn't include at least one complete concert on DVD. It would have been great. But maybe we'll get something in the future. And I know some people don't like the pockets that you have to slide the CDs into, but that's pretty much standard. I collect Bob Dylan as well, and all the box sets are the same. They all use that same way. I have looked at getting some plastic wallets. The problem is the plastic wallets are square, and the slots that you slide the CDs into are rounded. But yeah, it's worth getting if you can afford it. So there's another standard album that we all know, Something for Everybody, UK mono pressing. And of course this is the Canadian, which I do prefer the full picture. And of course Japan went for this. It looks a bit washed out, but it's different. So it does become addictive. We all know what Blue Hawaii looks like. And then you see the Spanish, and you might think that that's the back cover. It's not, it's the front. There's the back cover. So when you start to find these foreign pressings of albums that you know, I just find them addictive. Fun in Acapulco, standard UK pressing. Oops. And Israel. And why they chose that, I don't know. Very strange. Obviously a much later pressing. Oops. From Elvis in Memphis, great cover. Italian. And of course Elvis on here looks Italian. I do wonder if that's part of it. I noticed some of the Japanese pressings, they darken his skin tone, and he does look a bit Japanese on them. Girl Happy. I always think that he looks good on a red background. And the Japanese pressing, which is another good cover. And then you get odd things like the UK Kissing Cousins, and then an American pressing with the cast photo missing. Now on the later pressings it did come back. Whether this was an accident, I don't know. Strange thing. With the bonus photo. So that's why collecting foreign pressings, I find it very interesting. But then you end up with 32 copies of Blue Hawaii. I think I've got 18 of Fun in Acapulco. So it's something that you have to be able to afford. Have a look at some of the CD sets that are out there. You may have seen this, the profile, The King on Stage. So they have 4 concerts, and these were nicely done. A nice booklet, and then each of the discs in its own cover. You should still be able to find these on eBay, but I've noticed that the prices are going up. Yeah, it's strange, Danny. I don't know why they left the cast off that pressing, because the later ones it was put back on. And then there's a volume 2. Again, 4 more shows. And the Colonel says, "Have a nice day." Not sure about that. I've never been a fan of the Colonel, as I've said in the past. If anybody wants to see anything in particular, just sing out. I have bought quite a few Japanese albums recently, which are nice. Gatefolds of the soundtracks mostly. Trying to complete that. And I've been trying to get a few more of the singles. I've got all the 70s singles now, except one promo. It's impossible. And it was only released as a promo disc, no regular release. So there are some very expensive Japanese singles, things like Charo. That was a great cover, still from the film. So over time I'll cross them off the list, work my way through them. Now we've got 7 people, but only one person's talking. 8 people. Be interested to know where everybody is. Somebody asked me a question about this set. 60 CDs. Andy, hello. Where are you in the world? Do you have the double album back in Memphis with the bonus stickers and photos? No. I've got a copy with the photos, but not the bonus sticker. Wasn't on it. So that is something that I will look out for. Do you have it? Steve Jones, hello. Somebody asked me a question about this set. Yorkshire. My dad was a Yorkshireman. For some reason, a lot of these sets, the CD of Clambake doesn't have the wedding photo inside. Gloucester. I'm in Cheltenham. So I checked mine, and mine's missing as well, which is very odd. It does exist because some people do have it, so it's obviously a mistake. It would have been nice if they'd put some extra ones for sale on eBay or something. They'd be cheap enough so that we could buy the missing ones. But I'm going to have a go at making one. So at least it'll have one in there. But it's still a great set. All my albums have the bonus stickers and photos. Do you have King Creole with the bonus photo? I've got the majority of them. I think I'm missing about 4, the more unusual ones. Yeah, with the army photo. I've been looking for that. I've only seen them for sale in America at very high prices. Andy, you visit Cheltenham for the races. There's a lot of us in Cheltenham who don't enjoy the race time, of course, because of the traffic, and it's strange. Town is empty. So, as long as you go into town after the first race starts and leave before the last one finishes, you get town to yourself a lot of the time. There you go. So I do have a lot of the bonus photos, but the sort of the scarcer ones, like the Gold Records one, I'm missing. King Creole, the calendar with girls, if I remember right. I don't have that. Of course, in the UK, we didn't get any of that. We were lucky to get a brown paper bag to put the record in. As I've always complained, the lack of picture sleeves on UK singles. When I was quite a young fan, my mum bought me a magazine, a very good magazine, which showed all the US picture sleeve singles, and I was really annoyed when I saw that. Why didn't we get those? I've got them all now, though. As I showed in the video, I finally got the Polk Salad Annie picture sleeve single. The one postcard with Elvis sings The Wonderful World of Christmas. Yeah, I did bid on one of those, but I didn't get it. I didn't bid that much, but again, it's one I'll look out for. And of course, the Christmas, was it the Christmas card? Birthday card, I forget what it was, on that pretty awful album, Elvis Sings for Kids and Grown-Ups too. I've got that somewhere with the card still attached. I have to wonder who came up with these ideas sometimes. Hello, Annie, in Canada. Hopefully now you're all armed with the argument, if anybody criticises Elvis for not writing songs. Hopefully you all heard what I said. Jack, yep. It was a surprisingly cheap magazine. My mum bought it for me. but it's packed with picture sleeves, things I'd never seen. I would have been probably about, what, 13, 14 years old when that appeared. And my mum found it in town somewhere, brought it home for me. So I still have my original copy somewhere. But for the price, it's a really good magazine. I dreamt of all these US singles with picture sleeves, of having them one day. The complete Elvis magazine, that's it. Yep. Yep, $10 including shipping. And now there are books out there with the same sort of information. All right, the print quality is probably better, but you have to pay a fortune for them. So it's a really good magazine. And of course, it had all the bootlegs in. Now, when you were a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid living in the Cotswolds in Cheltenham, you'd never even heard of a bootleg. It was very exotic and very exciting. It wasn't until I went to Memphis in 1984 that I managed to buy some bootlegs. I actually deliberately didn't pack a lot in my suitcase because I wanted to buy bootlegs out there. So I came back with a suitcase full of bootlegs. And the strange thing is today, of course, that they're bootlegging the bootlegs. So you can buy all those originals, but repressed by somebody else. Of course, when you got them home and played them, a lot of them were quite disappointing because the sound quality was pretty awful on a lot of the live ones. But the thing that really made the difference was the box set Behind Closed Doors. You could say that was the first FTD release. Studio outtakes taken straight from the session tapes. How they got hold of them, I have no idea. And then I remember one day receiving a letter from Holland. I had no idea what it was about. I didn't know anybody in Holland. And when I opened it, it was a company offering to sell me new Elvis bootlegs. I can only imagine that they got our names and addresses from the fan club. Jack, yes, I picked that up recently. Oops. In good condition. Usual bit of ring wear, but other than that, not bad at all. And the promo, which is nice. It does seem bizarre to me that in 1965 they were sending promos of That's All Right Mama to radio stations. Can't imagine it got a lot of play. The only one I need now is I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine. Andy, yep, same here. Got interested in foreign Elvis 45s. I have a box down behind me with all the US pressings in, which was an interesting time hunting them down and that. And you get to learn a lot. What amazed me was the fact that RCA released 7 Elvis singles in one day. Bizarre. Of course, that robbed probably Elvis of some #1 singles, because if the fans had 7 to choose from, that diluted the impact. So, again, a very strange decision. Andy, the album that they were offering when I got the letter from Holland was Radio Recorders Revisited. I don't know if you've heard that one. Outtakes from the Kid Galahad sessions in fantastic quality and fantastic outtakes. Really good stuff. I was blown away by it. It's only when FTD did their Kid Galahad releases that they caught up with them, and that was well over 20 years, probably 30 years ago. They got the Dutch one. All my bootlegs are up the top there. I don't really play on any of them anymore, of course. Yep. But I remember at the hotel we were staying at in Memphis, they said there was going to be an Elvis collector's fair, and I went down, and I was just blown away. I could have bought just about everything in the room. I saw some amazing things. Of course, I couldn't afford most of them. But over the years, I have slowly picked things up, and of course, fulfilled my dream of getting my Son 45 and Son 78, which I did last year. Yeah, the Radio Recorder is a really good album. Really good quality outtakes. I was looking at some videos today. Did you ever get into the Beatles? No, I didn't. I don't know if it had an effect on me, but my dad was a trained cinema projectionist, and he also did live shows, the lighting. And he did a Beatles show. Can't remember if it was in Gloucester or Cheltenham. And he had some photographs and probably some autographs. Unfortunately, most of his stuff was lost in a move because it was just like a box full of paperwork and pictures. So we have lost most of it. I've still got a few bits and pieces. And he said, I mean, this was his opinion, of course. He said it was a good job the girls were screaming very loud because they didn't sound very good live. He also tells me the story that him and three of his mates who were setting the stage up went out to have something to eat. And when they came back to the venue, it was surrounded with girls. And they fought their way through to the back door. And some girl thrust a piece of paper into that and said, "Can you get their autographs?" And my dad and his mates each signed one of the names and handed it back to her. Whether she still thinks she's got the Beatles autographs, I don't know. But I just never really got into the Beatles. I think there was a thing, probably because Elvis died, it almost felt like you were betraying him in some way if you said you liked somebody else. So, of course, I recognised the Beatles were a great band and very creative. It just never really appealed to me. Of all the people that my dad worked with, he said the only one that really impressed him was Roy Orbison. And my dad came up with a lighting effect for the opening of his shows that Roy Orbison really liked. I can't remember exactly how it went, but my dad would shine a spotlight around because, of course, he's dressed in black and the stage is black. And when my dad came up with this thing, Roy Orbison said he liked it and carried on using it. So, shame Elvis never came. He might have done an Elvis show. But over the years, I have listened to other and become a fan of other music, of course. I'm a big Bob Dylan fan as well. Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, early David Bowie, Leonard Cohen I like. A Finnish band called Kingston Wall that probably nobody's ever heard of. And I like Tori Amos. I've got a lot of Tori Amos. I like lyricists. Good lyrics appeal to me. I was watching a video today which surprised me because I have to say I hadn't heard before, about a chap whose name right now I can't recall, who actually did quite a few of the designs of Elvis's jumpsuits, but not Bill Bellew. Apparently he worked for him and he actually came up with a lot of the designs, which I hadn't heard before. Totally new to me. But he has taken part in some exhibitions from Graceland, so it must be true. And there were some sketches of various jumpsuits that he designed. And I don't know if any of you've seen the video, but he shows two designs he came up with that Elvis rejected. One a spiderweb jumpsuit, which actually looked like it could have been quite effective. So I don't know why he turned it down. And then, of course, there's the video about the jumpsuit that they were designing for Elvis to perform in London. That had lasers coming out of it. Quite a really surprising story. And apparently, eventually, the design got into the hands of Michael Jackson, and he actually did wear such an outfit on stage. Has everybody gone to sleep? Have I bored you all into submission? Oops. Have you watched the Memphis Mafia Kid or Elvis Fan? I have done, yeah. I don't watch every video, but I have do occasionally take a look to see what he's talking about. I do try and watch most people when I get the chance. But there's actually quite a lot of people doing Elvis videos now, so it's not so easy to keep up with it all. I picked up a CD which I hadn't seen before. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's, one of these new releases done by some company. But it actually is a BMG Special Products. So I bought it. Of course, if you look on eBay, it's absolutely flooded with very cheap CDs of Elvis's music. And while that's great for somebody that wants to build up a collection, I do think about the fact that, of course, all these sales aren't going to count towards his overall sales because they're not going to be reported officially. And it does seem that there is a conspiracy to do Elvis's achievement down, like taking some of his number ones in America off him so that he's no longer the act with the most number ones. And they do seem to do these little things here and there to try and reduce his achievement. So we have to stand up for him and tell people the truth. There does seem to be a lot of snobbery against him, I think, because he was so successful. And it's amazing, but I still don't think he gets the recognition that his voice actually deserves. Well, I've seen some, what do they call themselves? Some people who react to specialists on vocal techniques and that, and they're blown away by Elvis. They say, we thought we knew his voice until we actually looked at it closely and studied it, and they're blown away by his techniques and his ability. And of course, he never took a singing lesson. So what could he have done if he'd trained his voice? There's so many what ifs in Elvis's story. He achieved so much and had such great success, but it could have been even bigger. Um, 13 watching. I'd be interested to know where people are who haven't commented. Where in the world? It's difficult to know when to do these things because, of course, time zones around the world make it difficult for people, especially, I suppose, on a Monday. Shropshire. Thanks, Andy. See you again. Jack from Michigan. So, what else can we look at? I've been trying to get all the early CDs from the UK. As I said before, I bought this when it came out, not realizing that there was a gold set first. So this is the silver set, exactly the same, except silver and not gold. And then all the early UK CDs have got RCA with a CD, and their serial number begins PD, as this one does. Don't you see at the top? There you go, PD. And the discs, oops, like that. So I did buy a lot of them at the time. When the CD players first came out, I grabbed one. So I do have quite a few of them, but there are, of course, gaps. I didn't get every single one at the time. And now the early ones are starting to creep up in price, so now's the time to start grabbing them. They didn't do them all straight away. Hello from Hawaii. Paul, I've been looking for the UK Pulp Saladin cover. It took me over 20 years to find one. I knew a couple of people who had it in their collection and weren't going to let it go. Bizarrely, mine turned up in America. I was contacted by an American dealer who knows that I'm looking for the rarities. And he did want a lot of money for it. So a bit of negotiating and bartering and that. And in the end, I thought, I'm probably never going to see it again. So I grabbed it. I've always been a collector of things. I had a big collection of Imperial Russian banknotes, Roman coins, British campaign medals. And I've always said I never regretted a purchase, but the things that I could have bought and didn't buy at the time haunt me. So if it's out there and I've got the money, I'll buy it. Hello from Wisconsin, hoping for a large 50th anniversary box set from Helloa. Yeah, I'm not really sure what they can do though. What new can they add? We've had the concert and the rehearsal. We've had the songs that he recorded after the show. What would you be hoping for on it? I suppose they could just gather every possible scrap into one collection with a nice photo book. Always wanted Queen Mary tin in top condition with the contents. I've had a few of those, and I've had some with part of the contents, but of course with all the contents, unbelievably expensive. I also had the Queen Victoria chocolate tin, if you know what I mean. CDs, vinyl, Blu-ray, book. Yeah, that's all that I think they could do, is to just gather everything. And the interview, the press conference, very short press conference. Yeah, but imagine the price. And then think of what mistakes they would make. Who would they leave off the list of credits? Elvis, maybe. It's got to be getting difficult for them. There can't be that much left in the vaults. We keep hoping that somebody's going to discover something somewhere. I always remember the story. I think it was Sophia Loren had a cassette tape that Elvis recorded for him singing some songs. And she confirmed in an interview that she did have it, and then she said it got damaged in a flood. Danny, we had it all, yeah. That's the one that I wish they could find. It's strange because if you look in the session books, it's not mentioned anywhere. But two of the people who played on it have confirmed that he did record it. I think they said 6 takes. And he got very upset and said, don't release it until 20 years after I'm dead. So what happened to that tape? Rob, what's the best Elvis book you have read? That's a difficult one because over the years I've read most of them. I really couldn't. I find it difficult to choose things. Generally, it's the last one that I read because that's fresh in my memory. One of my favourite books overall, which I think is here somewhere. It's a photo book. Most of my books are packed in the attic, but this one I keep because I just like it so much. So, it is really a photo book. And it's out of this book that I got the picture that I had made into a poster. But, I just love this book. Of course, you see these FTD books which look superb, but they're just so damned expensive. Danny, yours is signed by Sean Shaver. Nice. I don't never actually look to see. Did it come signed? No. Paul, I've always wanted the official multi-angle DVD of the 77 CBS special. Yeah, that is, of course, the big missing DVD release. I can understand why they're reluctant to release it, but I think the reluctance is misplaced because it's not a performance that non-fans will buy, and the fans who do buy it will understand why he looks the way he does. And yeah, I think they think it might damage his image in some way. It's very difficult to watch, though it's surprising how different he is in two performances which are close together, and how different he looks. It's very strange. Well, it's got to happen one day. You see all these unofficial releases of it, and I've seen some footage where they've done some work to clean up the image. But yeah, we should get to see whatever they've got, and I'm sure it will happen. Yeah, Paul, I know there are people out there that don't like Baz's film. I've never been a fan of Impersonators. I've always thought they've done more harm to Elvis. In a lot of people's minds, Elvis is this big fat bloke with a really horrible looking jumpsuit that poorly fitting, a very odd looking big wig, warbling away. So I went to see the film with some hesitation, but it pretty quickly won me over because I could see that it was made with genuine affection and respect for Elvis. Of course, it's got mistakes in it, but it's a film. Every biographical film has got mistakes in it. But I can see how much good it's done. I do watch a lot of reactors online whenever they're reacting to anything by Elvis, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. And I know for a fact there are now some very big fans who, before that film, would never have looked at Elvis twice, who've been completely won over and become obsessed with him. Yes, Jack, the caricature of Elvis became Elvis, unfortunately, in a lot of people's eyes. But I can't understand why Graceland got so involved with the Impersonators. You know, they've really made it almost the centre of their yearly events at some point. And I really don't get it. Of course, there are some good impersonators out there who, you know, do a good job. They'll never be Elvis, of course. There's only one. But it was all the others. I remember as a kid, of course, the main Elvis impersonator before Elvis died was Freddie Starr. It was pretty good. You know, he was very, he was fun to watch because he did it with respect, but he did it with humour as well. We don't seem to have many comedians like that these days. Yes, Paul Graceland and Elvis tribute artists. Yeah, can't understand why they got so into it. Danny Mudd did Lonely This Christmas in the Sound of Elvis. They did. They did. And if you know Led Zeppelin, their track Hot Dog, Robert Plant, who was a huge Elvis fan, he definitely was channeling Elvis when he did that song. I don't know if you heard the story when Robert Plant met Elvis. For the Led Zeppelin shows, one of the soundcheck songs they would do is Love Me. And Robert Plant mentioned this to Elvis when he met him. And they said as they were saying goodbye and parting, Elvis suddenly turned round and burst into Love Me. Robert Plant doesn't live too far from me. Yeah. He still sounds good, what I've heard of him. Of course, Led Zeppelin did do some Elvis songs live, if you find the bootlegs. I did go to see Robert Plant and Jimmy Page when they were touring. So that's as close to Led Zeppelin as I got. I've seen Bruce Springsteen, his usual 4-hour show. Of course, another big Elvis fan. And that day from Double Trouble lives 5 miles. Is that right, Paul? Good Lord. Amazing. Yeah, and I've seen Bob Dylan. Alice Cooper, which I enjoyed. I like people who put on a good show. Oh, I didn't know that was her only film. I wonder why that was. Strange to make one film. But if you're going to be in one film, be in it with Elvis. I was watching a video by some young chap who was looking at Elvis's film output. And it's a good video. He had some very sort of interesting comments to make. But the one thing I didn't like, perhaps because he's young and probably been through university, kept picking out these things in the films that were problematic. You know, the way that Asian people were portrayed, sort of labeling it as racist. I think sometimes what people label as racist these days wasn't done with any bad intent. It's just the way the world was back then. But that did bother me a bit. Rob, are there any other music artists you collect? Yeah, as I mentioned, I have a big Bob Dylan collection. Bruce Springsteen, pretty much up until he got married. When he got married, something changed in his music, which I'm not complaining about. You know, he has the right to grow up and move on, but it did affect his music. Tori Amos, which might come as a surprise to some people. But as I said, I like quirky things and I like good lyricists, and she's an amazing lyricist. I had a friend who worked in the music industry, and one day he posted to me a cassette tape, which I've still got, and he said, "I think you'll like this." And it was a a promo cassette tape of 4 songs by Tori Amos, and I was blown away by it. I'd never heard of her. She didn't have anything out at the time. So I looked out for her, and then he would send me promos when something new came out. So I've got a big collection of promos. So I do like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. I can claim to have every album by Kingston Wall, a Finnish band you won't have heard of, but they only produced 4 albums. And then their lead singer guitarist threw himself off a church in Helsinki. But I also do like things like Jimi Hendrix. I like most of the sort of the greats. Modern music just leaves me cold. I'm not saying there aren't good artists around today, but the genres just do nothing for me. I think they're pretty soulless, most of it. Annie, do you like Tom Jones? Well, you've got to like Tom Jones, haven't you? He's from Wales, not that far away from me. A great voice, great singer, and quite a few similarities to Elvis. I've never actually collected his stuff, but yeah. We've had this nonsense recently in the UK. It became a thing at Welsh rugby games for the crowd to sing Delilah, and everybody joins in. And a stupid police chief in Wales said that the crowd should stop singing this song because it glorifies violence against women. You can imagine the rugby fans' reaction to that. I did say that, you know, every sports ground in the country, everyone should sing Delilah. Stupid idiots like this who are running countries today. Hello, Mal. Have you got the Finnish Elvis LP Gospel black and white photo cover? No, that album Sentimental was the first one that I've got. I bought it from a record shop in Finland. I lived in Helsinki for 3 years, and I couldn't find, there weren't that many record shops, and I couldn't find a Finnish pressed Elvis record. But as one of the chaps told me, they tend not to press their own records. They import from other countries. So I was pleased to get the one that I got. Sentimental, it's called. But I did find out about Kingston Wall when I was living there. That's how I got interested in them. And I also saw a band there, some very young looking guys on stage called the Rasmus. And I said to my girlfriend at the time, if they find the right song, they could do really well. So, Paul, send me a PM, I'll send you a spare copy. Oh, that's great, Paul, thanks. I'll try and work out how to get in touch with you. I don't, PM. We'll sort that out. Thank you for that. I might have some doubles that you might be interested in. Over the years, I've bought doubles and I've given them to young kids when they've expressed an interest in Elvis to try and encourage them. And I know at least one case where it has worked. He's a lifelong fan. Where was I? Oh yeah, 3 years in Helsinki. Finland's a fantastic country. Helsinki, I just loved it. Yep, you're on. So if you ever get the chance to visit Finland, do it. Or don't do what my friend of mine did. When I moved there, I started the Introduction to the Finnish Language at Helsinki University Language Centre. And there were people from all around the world in this class. And the teacher said the first night, if you're an English speaker, you're going to find this very difficult. Finnish is a complicated language anyway, totally unlike English. But she said, the moment a Finn knows you're an English speaker, they'll speak English to you. You speak any other language, they'll speak Finnish. And she was right. Every time I tried to speak Finnish, they would start talking back to me in English. So, and I always say, I learned just enough Finnish to be totally confused. But great country. It was also very handy because you could get on the ferry and go to Stockholm or across to Tallinn. You could take the train to St. Petersburg back then. I did plan to do it and never got round to it. And now, of course, I do want to visit St. Petersburg. My wife, who has worked all around the world in her time, I still insist that she was a KGB agent at some point. She said that all the places in the world she's been, St. Petersburg is her favourite place. So, and of course, I'm also interested in history. So we'll go there one day. Can't think how I got onto this subject now. Just waffling. So who else do people listen to that we haven't mentioned? I've always wished that Elvis had obviously lived longer, but I'd heard Bob Dylan's 2 religious albums. Some fantastic songs on. I think Elvis would have been inspired to record another album of some of these tracks. Paul, have you met anyone connected to Elvis? Only when I was in Memphis. Charlie Hodge. He had a book out. He just published his book, Elvis and Me. And I went into a shop across from Graceland to buy a copy. I walked up to the counter with it, and there was a group of people around this guy, and he was signing the books. And I thought, bloody hell, it's Charlie Hodge. And he said, that's it, and put his hands up. So people moved away. So I walked straight up to him, and I said, excuse me, I've come all the way from England just to get your autograph. And I held my book out, and he laughed, and he signed it for me. So I've got that up there. So I can say I met him. I mean, I didn't have a conversation with him or anything, but and then of course the Colonel put his stamp on a magazine. I forget where it was. I was with the UK fan club trip, and they took us to this place, and there was a table with the Colonel sat behind it, and they had these envelopes with a like a magazine in, and it said from the Colonel. Of course, you had to pay $10 for it. The Colonel ain't going to give you nothing for free. And they said that he'd injured his hand, so he couldn't sign, but he had a rubber stamp, so you put it down in front of him, he stamped it, and you walked off. I never liked the Colonel. Was there anybody else? Can't think. Carl Perkins did perform. One of the places we went, you had to pay for a ticket, go in, have something to eat, and then Carl Perkins got up and performed. But a group of us all stood in the doorway with the door open and watched from the back. So I can say I heard Carl Perkins sing Blue Suede Shoes, which is, I suppose that's something. Has anybody else met anybody? Silence. So if everybody could afford to buy that one special thing, what would it be? Jack met Carl Perkins. There you go. Paul always wanted to meet Lisa. Yeah. I would have found it very strange to meet her. I'm not sure I would have reacted. Have you read the book? What's it called? Destined to Die Young, I think it's called. Where she took a really in-depth look at the medical history of Gladys's side of the family. It's a very difficult book to read. but it's very convincing that something's not right on that side of the family genetically, and people die young, sadly. Mal, have you bought any UK original albums recently? There are some of the stereo ones that I've been trying to find, but have I bought any recently? You've got me stumped there. I can't think what the last one was I bought. My recent purchases, I bought 12 Japanese albums, a Finnish one, a couple of American ones. I can't think. Probably not recently. No, hold on, I'm telling a lie. The Red Spot Blue GI Blues. Red Spot GI Blues I bought last week. For some reason, I've seen it for sale for stupid amounts of money. And then one appeared, I think it was £20, so I got it. It should be here somewhere. GI Blues. Let's have a look. Alright. I don't have as many GI Blues at the moment. That's Japanese. That's the black label repressing. There you go. It's in really nice condition. I don't know why it was so cheap. So that's my most recent one. Yes, Ma, it's difficult. Yeah, I've been looking out for the stereo ones as well. They don't seem to crop up that often. Here's this is my original mono. It's the cover's a bit damaged with a large silver spot. I bought that at a second-hand shop when I was quite young. So yeah, so I did actually buy a much cleaner copy of it as well. What's this one? And that's the international stereo. So I'm still missing quite a few Blue Hawaii. Blue Hawaii, I've got it on the brain at the moment. GI Blues. But I know what you mean about them being hard to find. I've been trying to find things like Frankie and Johnny in stereo. I have seen one for sale. It's a stereo album, but in a mono sleeve, which won't do. But as long as you keep looking, it's like the GI Blues Red Spot. Keep looking, eventually they turn up. Cool, trying to collect all the Red Label Gold Standard singles. Yeah. People are starting to ask bigger prices for those as well these days. I did a video a while back on the gold standard singles. I do have selections of all the different pressings. So I do buy them when they're cheap enough. I should actually make a list up of what I've got. Let's have a look. What's in here? So there's a gold standard of Heartbreak Hotel from the first series. And I have a whole bunch of reds. I don't think I've ever actually made a list of what I've got. And of course, the later ones, which I've got a lot of those. those are found for sale in the shop, very cheap. Many years ago. Some more reds. I'll make a list up and see what I've actually got. Guest appearance by my wife bursting in as usual.
Are you recording?
No, I'm not recording, it's live.
Oh, say hello from me.
Well, you just did.
The old guys who like Elvis Presley.
Oh, okay. Well, Frankie and Johnny stereo on sale. £120. Yeah, I'm not paying £120. If you keep looking long enough, eventually, like I said with the GI Blues Red Spot, I've seen it for sale for stupid money, and then one appears for £20. Paul, I'm not old. Yeah, that's my wife's sense of humour. The Russians have a very strange sense of humour. I suppose you have to survive in Russia. It's strange how some people have this thing about listening to Elvis's recordings in mono. As far as I'm concerned, if it was recorded in mono, then the mixing and the way it's recorded is for mono. So that's how you listen to it. No reprocessed stereo. But if Elvis recorded it in stereo, then why on earth would you want to listen to it in mono if you have a choice? I think it's a myth that it sounds better in mono. It sounds better in mono if it was recorded in mono. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But it came as a shock to me to find out after many years that you're supposed to have two different stylus heads on your arm for mono and stereo. I had no idea. It's one of the things that I'm finding difficult about buying a record player. Is all the choices you have to make. I'm hopeless at making choices. I have no idea on what to base my choice. Oh, for the days when you could just go to Woolworths and pick up a hi-fi unit. But I did go into one of the record shops here in Cheltenham, and it's mind-blowing. All the different things that you can buy, and we'll see. I should get a record player. It's been over 20 years since I've had one. You get a bit lazy. Now that I've got pretty much all of Elvis's music loaded onto an iPad, it's so much easier to just pick your iPad up and press play. Oops. Another book that I do keep down here is Paul Lichter's The Boy Who Dared to Rock. Again, it had a lot of the releases in it, and information on recording sessions. This was the first time I'd seen a book that actually lists recording sessions. If you get a record deck, you'll never go to bed. That's true. I've got so many albums to play that I've never played. Maybe that's a good thing. They're all in mint condition, all the new stuff. Paul, have you got the Final Curtain DVD? No, I haven't. Some I didn't buy at the time. I do regret that now. As I said before, the things I regret are the things I didn't pick up. It goes for silly money now. I've seen a couple for sale and I've sort of ummed and ahed about it, but never actually picked it up. So I don't have that. Does anybody have it? I do wonder about the quality, the picture quality. I did recently pick up a copy of that set, which I haven't actually taken out yet to look at it. So the one I still need to get is the Elvis in Las Vegas vinyl. Because of course at the time I was buying everything on CD, didn't think about picking it up on vinyl. Yeah. Jack, here in the US we have a compilation company called Eric Records. I've never heard of Eric Records. Well, I've got that set, it's heavy. Do you mean the that's the way it is set, the big one? Because that vinyl was for that. When you say big heavy book, do you mean I don't know if I can lift it down, it'll probably fall on my head if I get knocked out. Send help. Oh my god. Do you mean that one? It is fantastic. Expensive but well worth the money. Oh, the final curtain. Crossed wires everywhere. Oh god. Why did I put the box sets on the top shelf? Paul, Priscilla movie, no, absolutely agree. I think the Priscilla movie can only do harm. I can't see it doing good. Final cut, right. Well, the quality's good. I do regret not buying it. It might be one of those things that eventually I just have to take a deep breath and pay up. Especially if they don't release and do an official release of it. Annie, I know you don't like the Colonel, but was he a good manager anyway? I don't think he was. I think he gets credit where he doesn't deserve it. He was a very low level, to me, a con man. You think Elvis Presley, the biggest star and most controversial star in the world, everybody wants him. He's the big thing. TV companies would fall over themselves to get him on their shows. Film producers wanted him, get him in a film. Record companies wanted to sign him up. He would have been a big star anyway. I think the restrictions that the Colonel put on Elvis's career damaged his career and harmed him. So I think Elvis outgrew the Colonel so fast. And there was I can understand Elvis's attitude, a misplaced sense of loyalty. He probably felt they owed him a lot, whereas Elvis was the artist. Elvis would have been a star without the Colonel. The Colonel would have been nothing without Elvis. There was that, I forget who said it. Somebody said the Colonel made Elvis, and somebody replied, okay, tell him to make another one. So no, I think the Colonel was bad all round for Elvis. I regret that he got his clutches on him I think he damaged his career and his life. Well, off to watch the Reg. You don't have to be sorry. Who are they playing, though? I always say I don't like football. I'm a Leeds fan. You'll know what I mean. Cameron, I like your Elvis videos. Do you have a favourite album from Elvis? Now, if you watch many of my videos, you'll hear me say many times, I can't answer that question. My favourite Elvis album would change daily. Oh dear. I have a soft spot for Promised Land, but that's mainly sentimental. It's because it's the first album I bought with my own pocket money on the day it was released. That, of course, doesn't mean it's anywhere near being his best album, but it has a lot of sentimental memories. Me saving up my pocket money, giving it to my mum when she's going off to do the shopping and asking her to buy it for me. Waiting excitedly for her to come home and handing me this brown paper bag and pulling out this fantastic looking album, putting it on and just loving every song. And then my dad, a Yorkshireman, coming in and saying, "What did you buy that for? There's no hits on it. I've never heard of any of those songs." That was my dad. But my favourite album just changes all the time. Elvis Country, from Elvis in Memphis, on stage. Elvis is back. I mean, it just depends on how I feel at the time. Paul, so many ifs and buts. Yep, absolutely. So many. It's astonishing when you think how successful Elvis was. That he could have been far more successful. So many things held him down. And of course, the big one for us UK fans is the London concerts that were being planned that never happened. Jack should have left the Colonel after his army discharge. Absolutely. Absolutely. He'd far outgrown the Colonel. Yeah. There's so many songwriters that wanted to write for Elvis, and the Colonel actively blocked any access to him because he insisted that if Elvis was going to record your song, that you get a cut of the publishing rights. Elvis never wanted a cut of the publishing rights. He wanted good songs. Danny, why did RCA put snippets of I Was Born about 10,000 years ago after every song? Yeah, I don't think that did the album any favours. It's an odd... Somebody just thought it was a quirky idea, I suppose. I suppose concept albums were the big thing back then. And something they tried, I don't think it works. So I don't actually ever play the original album for that reason. Jack, my first introduction to Elvis was Golden Hits Volume 3 when I was a small boy. What a good introduction. Great album. I always find it odd when you think Gold Records, we call it Volume 1, Golden Records, is the classic rock and roll album, but it's not one of his regular albums. And I think it harmed Elvis's albums that they didn't put singles on it. It's bizarre to me that you buy his first album and if you were expecting to see the hits, they're not on there. A very strange concept to not include them. What about everybody else? What was the first Elvis album that you heard? What introduced you to him? I've told the story of mine. It was the single King Creole Dixieland Rock, which my dad bought because that was the first film that he showed as a trained cinema projectionist. And little did he know what that would lead to. Paul, it saddens me that the Beatles and other big artists did world tours and Elvis went to some 8,000-seat arena in a minor town in the USA. Yep. This is what I'm saying, that the Colonel is, his outlook on life was, as they said, a carnival con man. Let's get the biggest star in the world into an 8,000-seat arena and put all this effort into selling a few little badges and buttons and posters. Cameron, my introduction was 30 #1 hits. Yeah. I've heard a lot of young people mention the 30 #1 hits. And became a fan because of the Baz Luhrmann film. Yep. You look on YouTube at people reacting to music who react to Elvis's music, and especially amongst the black community. And quite a few of them have said that they grew up being told that Elvis was a racist and you shouldn't listen to his music. And the film sort of opened up a little crack, and they've looked into Elvis's story and been blown away by what they found. And they've said, you know, we were lied to. Yet there are still some people out there who believe the lie. So I've got 14 watching now. Don't be scared to say hello. I'm not going to bite you. Paul, the Grammys are a bit of nonsense. What you have to realise is when the Grammys started, they were pretty much classical music orientated. There weren't that many categories, so it's quite a small thing. Elvis won 4. The Grammys has blown up into this pretty ridiculous, huge thing now, where there's so many, you know, Latin categories and all these, so many categories that in one night somebody can walk away with more than they can carry. So I don't put much store by the Grammys these days. Harold, hello. I see this nonsense about Harry Styles winning, what do they call them? The British Awards. How he swept the board. I honestly couldn't sing you a single Harry Styles song. I've probably heard something on the radio, completely unmemorable. To me, a complete non-entity. Yet now he's lauded over like he's some, you know, massive superstar. There you go. Morgan Gustafsson, hello from Sweden. Starting to sound a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest. I've been to Stockholm a couple of times, as I mentioned earlier, when I lived in Helsinki. Took the ferry over to Stockholm. I love Scandinavia. Though sadly, Sweden isn't, you know, has changed from what I can see. Same problem that a lot of our countries have got. So I lived in Finland and I loved it. There is a Swedish album that I really want to get. It's a 1970s live album. I just love the cover, black cover with Elvis. I can't think what it's called now. And I've seen one for sale, but they want £90 for it. I'm sure I can find it cheaper somewhere. I think it's called Elvis Live, if I remember right. Have you got that one? Harold, my grandfather was from Arendal, Norway. Never been to Norway. I don't know if you've seen on my other videos, but I'm in the final stages of getting my book published, British Involvement in Finland. And Norway's in there. Of course, it's all that part of the world. Because the British landings at Narvik had originally been planned as part of an operation to go to Finland to help them in the Winter War, which fortunately got postponed, because that would have been a disaster. We'd have been fighting the Soviets and the Nazis at the same time. But I always think Scandinavians are more like the British than the rest of Europe. That's why we never really felt that comfortable in the EU. But we won't go into politics. What else? I'm trying to think if I have any Swedish albums. Can't think of one. But I do want to get that Elvis Live one. Is Sweden like Finland, where they don't produce that many albums themselves? It's mostly imports. Oops. Move these. I don't want to turn my chair and crush some records. Blue Hawaii can. What do I keep calling it? Blue Hawaii. GI Blues can go back. Some more very nice CD sets that came out, which again, people are asking lots of money for these days, are the 4 Bilko. There's Always Me's. Great selections of outtakes. So pretty much they are pretty much FTDs, not by FTD. All these old releases, the money that people seem to be asking for them. I don't know. Oops. So what's the one thing that everybody would like to be able to buy if they could? The one thing missing from their collection they would really want? Apart from, obviously, the Sun records. Talking of Europeans. Paul, is that the statue on the bridge? It looks pretty good. And Elvis Presley Park in Hungary. No, I didn't know that. No. Didn't he do some charity, get involved in some charity thing to do with Hungary? I seem to recall. Harold, I know you like Bob Dylan. I saw him in concert twice and he waved to me. Yeah, I really like Bob Dylan. I saw him once. He didn't wave to me. Maybe he winked at me. I don't know. Yes, I have a lot of Bob Dylan. The week that the On Tour box came out was a very expensive week. I think that cost me 90 quid. And the Bob Dylan Bootleg series, volume 17, was 130. Ouch. Well, I did yesterday find somebody online selling some FTDs for 15 quid, CD releases. So I grabbed 3. I'm not going to collect all the FTD CDs, there's just too many of them. But I do like the studio ones. But for 15 quid, I'll buy them. Oh, yeah, that was it. Hungarian Relief Fund. Well, it's good that they remember. Yeah. It is strange that during the communist period, Yugoslavia was pressing all of Elvis's releases. I do wonder whether somebody high up in the communist regime in Yugoslavia was an Elvis fan. One thing I've never found out is, were they pressing them to be distributed around the communist bloc, or were they just selling them in Yugoslavia? Danny, I have loads of FTD CDs and books, but too many. Yep, too many, too expensive. Yeah. You do keep hoping that one day you'll walk into a charity shop and somebody's just brought in a big box of FTDs that they want £1 each for. You never know. It might happen one day. It is still possible to find bargains. I found a few records like that, and as I said, I've collected other things and been very lucky. Of course, we can't all be experts in everything, and sometimes people don't know what they've got, which means they didn't pay a lot for it because they don't know what they've got. So it's not like you're robbing them if you buy it cheap. So I have no problem with that. Paul got 5 of the Yugoslavian singles with picture sleeves, unlike the UK. Yep, we were. They do have some interesting picture sleeves, Yugoslav. I've got I think 3 or 4 of them. And of course, I've got My Boy. But they do charge a lot of money for them. I think I've got an album as well. Is it Gold Records? And Fun in Acapulco, I think I've got. And maybe Blew Away. I lose track of Blew Away. I do like all these foreign things. I keep looking at Italian ones and Spanish ones and Japanese. I just like the different covers. It's like when I started looking at, I bought My Boy from Japan, and that got me interested. And so then I was hunting down 70s singles from Japan. And as I said, I've got pretty much got all of them now. Oops. So then I started going into the 60s. So some look similar to the Americans, and others look completely different. I do like seeing the different covers. So I've got a big box there of Japanese singles. Viva Las Vegas. That actually folds out, that cover. All-time favourite Elvis cover for LP fans only. What's yours? People keep asking me about favourites. I find it so difficult. Favourite cover. I do like the first album, but I think if you put the thumb screws on me and said, what's your favourite cover, I would always have to go back to one. If I can find it. It is, yeah. Elvis Presley #2, HMV. To me, this is the first punk rock album cover in history. you imagine what parents would have thought in 1956 when you're used to singers like Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra, and suddenly there's this weird looking alien on a bright yellow cover and a strange green puffy shirt and heavy lidded eyes staring at you, coming after their kids. It's like some alien. Whoever was responsible for designing this cover should have done all of RCA's covers. So if you force me to choose, Elvis Presley #2, HMV. What about other people? Have you got a favourite cover? Yeah, Jack with sideburns. Elvis must have just looked so different. But he did throughout his life. When I looked at Sean Saver's book, there are so many times that Elvis is wearing an outfit that on anyone else would have looked completely ridiculous. I've said this before, I think he was the ultimate model. Not just good looking, but he could wear anything and make it look good. And if you look through enough photos, you'll see him trying many different styles. And there are times when he looks can't find the picture I was looking for. But you see him time and time again wearing the most outlandish costumes and pulling it off. Worst cover USA Song Collection. Yes. Yes, that is pretty awful. I know that there are some people who like it. I mean, the UK version on the Starcall label wasn't much better. When you think of all the great photographs, why do they get people to draw pictures? When you see stuff like that, I love these covers. What could have been? The lower is a bad one. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very shoddy. I know they wanted to rush it out, but that's no excuse. It was, I mean, you've got to have a photograph from the concert. It's like Madison Square Gardens. There's no excuse for it. You know, how long will it take to get a photograph developed and put into the artwork? But a lower from Hawaii is just, to me, it's just shoddy. When you open it up, it should have been full of photographs from the concert. That's what I say, that, you know, so many of Elvis's albums aren't considered classic albums. I think it's nothing to do with Elvis and his performances. I think it's just that they were shoddily treated by RCA. Annie, do you like the pop group Queen? I do like Queen, yeah. They're a band that I wouldn't buy, but I do listen to online. And I see similarities between Elvis and Freddie Mercury. This very bombastic showman, very powerful voice. I think as artists, they would have got on quite well. I do see similarities there. And I do like the sort of overblown, you know, bombastic sound, which of course you could say Elvis adopted in the 70s, going for the orchestra and the big sound. So, yeah, I do like Queen. Harold, I like it, but I love the 75 Elvis Song collection better. So is this the drawing? Do you mean? On the Starcall label. I've got some somewhere. Gary, do you know if Sony will release Toxic Viva Las Vegas on CD? No idea. No idea. I don't do the sort of person that is aimed at. Do they buy CDs? That sort of generation seems to be downloads more than anything. Paul, why do you not see numerous Beatles compilations as you do for Elvis? I think the record company was wiser with the Beatles. If you want to buy the Beatles, you have to buy the album. The album sale gets another credit. So they go up and up and up and up. With Elvis, there's so many ways of buying his records now that I doubt very few of his record sales actually ever get recorded. So they would have been better off if they had only produced Elvis's albums and said, this is the album, buy it or don't buy it. Because if you have 10 different versions of an album, each selling 100,000 copies, probably not going to show up. But you get an album that sells sells 1 million. So again, I think that's another way that they did Elvis down. So I said that before, all these cheap CDs now that you can buy, they won't be registered as sales for Elvis. He's probably still selling a lot of units, as they call it these days, but very few of them will be credited to him. I'm sure the 50-year rule must apply. Harold, can you show some of your CDs? Which CDs in particular? What is it you want to see? I do like to pick up what have we got here? If I can find them. I do like to pick up the promos. Find the camera. Things that aren't sort of regular releases. So for all the box sets that came out, there was a promo or a sampler, as they call them. So I always tried to get those. This stems back from, as I said before, when a chap who worked in the record industry used to send me all of Tori Amos's promos. So I do like to get them. Have you any bootlegs you can recommend? The thing with the bootlegs now, of course, is that they've nearly all been officially released. I think the all-time classic is the Behind Closed Doors box, which I think has been redone. But I don't think there are any bootlegs that haven't been officially released. I'm not sure. Let's have a look. No, I don't think there's anything really that you can't buy officially. But if you see the behind closed doors box, it is worth picking up. As I said, to me, it's the first FTD. Because most of the bootlegs back then were live, and they weren't that. The sound quality was pretty poor. So, Harold, is there any CDs in particular that you're asking about? I've got all my CDs up here. I've got all the sort of regular albums on CD. As I said, I do like to pick up the promos and samplers. I have some FTDs, though not many, and some of the Memphis Recording Service 70s CDs. Paul, what are your thoughts regarding duets? The Lisa duets are different. I'll separate those off. Because obviously there's a lot of sentimentality behind those. The other duets, no, I don't like them. Other artists trying to attach themselves to Elvis. Because, of course, he didn't do many duets. Crawfish, The Lady Loves Me. He did actually record a duet version of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face with a female singer, which you can find. I'm not sure if it's been officially released or not. Can't remember. CD box sets. Right. I've got the official ones, of course. So, the silver box, the gold box, Live in Las Vegas, Platinum, A Life in Music, Close Up, Today, Tomorrow and Forever. You've probably seen those. I did show a little bit earlier the 2 volumes, a profile. They contain 4 concerts each. I don't know if you've seen those before. Volume 1 and 2. And the 4 Bilko sets. There's Always Me, really good. Really good sound quality, studio outtakes. I recommend those. Well, as I said, they're starting to get expensive. What other sets have I got? Ah, this lot here. So I've got Memphis Recording Service, which I showed in my last video. Various RCA Legacy sets. I've got all the FTD studio session sets. Which I assume you've seen them all already. I've got the big version box sets, Walking Mile in My Shoes, Memphis to Nashville, Rocking Rock and Roll, stuff like that, Golden Celebrate, Collector's Gold, all that kind of thing. Young Man with the Big Beat, Live 69, all that kind of thing. Is there anything that you don't have that you want to see? I'm useless at choosing things. I was one of those people who originally used to buy the vinyl and the cassette. And then CDs appeared, and I would buy the vinyl, cassette, and CD. And then, of course, cassette started to disappear, and then vinyl started to disappear. And unfortunately, my cassette collection got lost when I moved to Finland. I have occasionally thought about rebuilding it, but I haven't had the heart to start, or the money. Even cassettes now are starting to go up in price. Paul, the UK single that hardly anybody's got, though we know it exists, is the UK pressing of I Got a Thing About You Baby. I don't know if you know about Raised on Rock. Again, if you can find a Raised on Rock that was manufactured in the UK, both the cover and the disc, that's very rare. Most of them were American imports, and the same with the single, I've Got a Thing About You Baby. There was, at the time, there was a vinyl shortage. I think something to do with oil. And RCA UK imported Raised on Rock and I've Got to Think About You Baby from America. So if you went into a record shop to buy those, you would buy an American import. But then over time, they did produce a few singles and a few albums. The album you can find, I think there's one for sale at the moment, and they want something like £200 to £300 for it. The single, I saw one for sale many years ago. So you're looking for the orange label Made in England on the single, and of course without the picture sleeve. Harold, do you have 8 tracks? No, I don't. Again, it's something I looked at and thought, shall I collect? But you have to draw the line somewhere. Morgan bought There's Always Me CDs, but something happened. It wasn't possible to play. Oh, that's strange. Well, I have to say, I haven't tried playing mine for years. I'll give it a go tonight and see if they play. That's weird. I can't imagine why that would be. Strange. I mean, one of the things that they said about CDs when they come out was, it would be forever. Though I don't think anything's forever. Might be CD rot. What causes that? I mean, my CDs just live in their boxes in this room. Because as I said before, I tend to play everything MP3 on my iPad, which isn't the best way to hear these things. But you do get very lazy about this, which is why I haven't got round to getting a record player. I have actually been offered a record player free. A friend of mine was given it as a Christmas present a couple of years ago and already had a good record player. And it's one of these that's in an antique looking box, the big old radio box, and you lift the lid and there's a record player inside. So of course the speakers are built in, so it's not going to be great sound. So they've offered me it free. So I might get it, but I'd rather get a proper record player if I'm going to get one. I imagine the sound won't be that great on it. But I don't think it'll do any damage. I wouldn't play any rare records on it anyway. So, all right, overtime CD surface breaks up. I hadn't heard of that. I suppose eventually we'll have a a chip in our brain and will download directly into our heads, along with a Chinese virus, no doubt, that will make us think that communism is a wonderful thing. Our own politicians seem to be hell-bent on persuading us of that at the moment. I know that there has been a problem with these two EP sets, which other people have talked about, with the plastic sleeves causing problems with the vinyl. Now, mine have lived in these sleeves ever since I bought them. I've never played them, and I've always found them difficult to get out. So let's have a look. I never actually looked. But apparently the plastic gets onto the vinyl. Well, I have to say, that looks perfectly clean to me. So I don't know. Harold, do you like Frank Sinatra? Never really listened to him. Of course, we all know Frank Sinatra and what he sounds like. But I've never really listened to him. He's obviously recognised as one of the greats. Though if you want to laugh, Bob Dylan did an album of American classics where he did his own version of Frank Sinatra songs. I am a defender of Bob Dylan's voice. To me, his voice was the third instrument. He'd play guitar, harmonica, and then his voice, and he would adapt his voice to the song. He has many different voices. And of course, the one that everybody seems to go on about is the whiny nasal, which he puts on. That's not his singing voice. But he can sing, and if you don't believe me, then listen to Moonshiner Blues, and listen to various songs throughout his career where he sings properly. Paul, PVC sleeves of vapor migration. That's it, yeah. Well, hopefully mine haven't suffered from it, because that looked perfectly clean. Because again, the EP collections, I bought them, never actually played them. And that's, in fact, of all the records I've bought over the years, I don't have that many that I would call playing copies. It was when I first started buying records, I wasn't a collector, I was a fan. I didn't see myself as collecting records. It was only later, when I started to look out for variations in different countries, that then I would say, well, yeah, I'm collecting. Like all my early records that I actually played were probably Camden's, because that's what I could afford. As I said, when I became an Elvis fan, I was, what, 11? And buying a Camden for 50 pence was a lot easier than buying a regular album for whatever, £1.50. So I would only get the regular albums like birthdays and Christmas, and then I started to save up. But most of my early records were Camden's. My grandparents gave me a couple of singles and an EP that they had, Peace in the Valley. And the singles were Surrender and It's Now or Never. Because my grandfather, on my dad's side, he was manager of Dewsbury Opera House, which I always find funny that Dewsbury had an opera house. That's how they came to Cheltenham. He got a job as manager of the Daffodil Cinema in Cheltenham, which is how my dad got into the cinema. And whilst working in the cinema, he met my mum, who was an usherette. So funny how these things come about. Paul, Camden, yeah, I have great memories of Camden's. I have talked about it in some of my videos in the past. I think Camden's were a way into Elvis for a lot of people. They do sort of get looked down on a bit now, but Harold, my favourite Camden is Separate Ways. Yep, I have a soft spot for Separate Ways. I think it's a fantastic selection of songs. And as I've said, back then, when I bought a Camden, I didn't see it as this is a cheap compilation of movie songs and leftovers. To me, it was like you buy Promised Land, you buy Separate Ways, 2 Elvis albums. I didn't see any difference. And I like Separate Ways, and I Got Lucky was another I thought was really good. And of course, the Christmas album. The Christmas album, probably to some people, the Christmas album is the 1957, which is the greatest Christmas album ever released. But the Camden Christmas album, that was my Christmas album. Jack was born in Camden, right? Because that's where the RCA plant was that actually pressed them. Almost in Love, yeah. I think the only Camden that really sort of, well, the 2 Camdens that I think struggled a bit more were the hits from the movies, Volume 1 and 2. Tended not to play those so much. Annie, did you visit Sun Records? I did. And Tupelo, yes. The UK fan club organises tours every year. I went on one of the very early ones, 1984. So we first went to Tupelo, and then when we arrived in Memphis, we went to Sun. We also visited Humes High School. Where else did we go? I think we drove past Lauderdale Courts. We also had a trip to Nashville, to the Grand Ole Opry. I've stood on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. I've stood in Sun Studio. Yeah, it was a good trip, really good trip. And I think I was lucky to go that early because it did still feel like Elvis's home. It didn't feel like a museum. They hadn't done a lot of, what would you call it, turning things into exhibits. Things were just still there. His cars were parked at the back of the house. And the walking in down this hall, they called it the Hallway of Gold. I remember that. So you have this enclosed long hallway, and it was lined both sides of the wall, top to bottom, with gold records. And it was just mind-blowing. And then it opened up into a hall, and there were more gold and platinum discs. I don't know what it's like now. I've seen some videos. To me, all right, they have a big room full of stuff. But to me, it doesn't look as though they've got as much there as they used to. I may be wrong, because of course I haven't been in many years. Going back to the Bilko releases, I think they were great back in the day, but over the years have suffered with the sicky stuff. Right. Again, I haven't... I really must get and look at these things. They've sat up there for, what, 15, 20 years? I played them when I first got them, and then they get put up there because, of course, everything becomes available in other places. So again, a very few of my CDs I've actually played. I do like to listen to the FTD studio sets because it's the only place you can hear a lot of that stuff. I know some people probably think it's crazy, but I do enjoy listening to 20 takes of one song. Some of them like a few words. You notice Elvis's attitude. You hear about these stories about divas throwing their dummy out the pram and making demands and blaming everybody for everything. You can see with Elvis it wasn't an act because it's consistent. It was always the same. If something went wrong, he would either laugh or blame himself. And then he'd just start again. How mind-numbingly difficult must it have been to do repeated takes of Queenie Wahini's Papaya, to know that the songs that you're recording are not good songs. And yet he did it with professionalism. and he was surrounded by world-class musicians. And yet he did it with professionalism, and he was surrounded by world-class musicians, so that if you have to record Queenie Wahini's Papaya, it's the best version of Queenie Wahini's Papaya you're ever going to hear. Well, we've been going for 2 hours. I suppose people have popped in and out. And it's currently 8:42 in the UK. Paul went to Memphis in April with Strictly Elvis UK and also got to stand on the Hayride stage. Eerie and awesome. Yeah, it's great to be in those places. Yeah. I felt that when, first of all, we went through the gates at Graceland, and then when we stepped through the front door. Yeah. Unbelievable to be in there, to know, you know, so much of Elvis's life was spent in those walls, that he walked, you know, you're walking in his footsteps. And then, of course, to stand at his grave, which, yeah. I do hope that there won't be any more burials at Graceland. I think with Lisa, that should be the last. You know, that's the Presley family. Priscilla isn't the Presley family. I have nothing against Priscilla. She's not the Presley family. And I don't think anybody else should be buried there. Yeah. I found the memorial service for Lisa very difficult to watch. I didn't think it would upset me, but it did. I think seeing other people in so much grief, you'd have to be pretty hard not to be affected by it. When you think about it, over the years, that family's had so much tragedy in it. I remember Bruce Springsteen said once, many times he talks about Elvis in his concerts, and he said it's hard to understand how a man who won so big in the end could lose so bad. And I get what he means. Yeah. It really does bring home the point that it doesn't matter how successful you are. If your health goes, it all means nothing. So fingers crossed, we're lucky. My wife came through cancer. Horrible treatment, but it saved her life. So now she'll be annoying me for many years to come, thankfully. Paul, I do think Priscilla will be buried at Graceland. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Whose decision will it be? That's the thing. I hope there isn't a battle over the will. It's actually very difficult. If her daughters have control of Graceland and they are influenced by somebody, what could happen? I think Graceland should have been made some kind of trust that protects its, you know, it can never be sold, it can never be whatever, liquidated. I think that would have, I don't know what its legal status is. And I do worry that what might be its future. I don't know if anybody knows what its legal status is. As I said earlier, I picked up, when I buy Japanese albums, I try not to buy them from dealers here in the UK because they obviously charge a lot of money for them. So I get a lot of my foreign albums. I try to get them from people in the country. There are some good Japanese record sites. You may be a bit worried about buying from abroad. All the years that I've bought from many different countries, I've never had a problem. And I find the Japanese ship things very quickly, very well packed. And there are sites out there that an album that, say, a UK dealer wants £50 for, you buy it from Japan and you can pick it up for £6 or £7. And of course, there's David, Elvis in Japan. He sells, and again, he ships very quickly, very well packed, very good prices. Harold, do you have any magazines from the 50s and 60s? I don't. I used to have a lot of, we had a magazine called Elvis Monthly. A small magazine. I used to get on subscription. And they started in the 60s. And I did start to buy some of the earlier ones. And also we had the Elvis Annual every year, which again started in the 60s. I had all the sort of 70s and 80s. And I did look at buying those. And again, along with my cassette collection when I moved abroad. My parents say they didn't throw them away, but they didn't throw themselves away, and they no longer exist. So my box of Elvis Monthlies and Elvis Annuals vanished. I know my cassettes got damaged, so I can't blame them for that. So I never got back in. I never tried to replace them. David, have you done the trip to Bad Nauheim? Nope, never been to Germany. Since I got married, I can't really leave the wife at home, so she has to agree to the place. And if I say, let's go to Germany to see where Elvis was stationed, I can imagine what she'll say. But we'll see. You never know. I am beginning to feel like my years of traveling abroad are sort of starting to fade into the background now. David, could you do me a favor and check out your Clanbeck? Talked about this earlier. I've looked and it's missing. So I have the same problem. Yeah, I did actually reply to your message. Yep, there's no Clanbeck photo in my copy either. A very strange thing to happen. I think the least they could do is produce one and put it for sale on eBay for £1 so that we can actually buy one. I have thought of making my own with some photographic paper, so I'm going to give it a go and see how they come out. They always seem to spoil it at the last moment, don't they? There's always something in these releases. But it's a very strange thing to have left out. So, does anyone know if anybody in the UK has actually got one? Weird. Yet again, the UK fans miss out. Always the same. Harold, was Elvis Monthly by... He started it, yes, he did. And then Todd Slaughter took over, I believe. And Todd's still going. He's still running the fan club, which is astonishing. You can find copies of Elvis Monthly and the Annual on eBay. It's amazing when you think that used to come out every month. David, I bought the album with the pick included. Oh, right. Oh, I'll have to see if I can find one then. So they released them individually, or people have broken up sets? I don't know. White Horses, I've got a photo. Are you in the UK? Can't remember if you said. Yes. Yeah. So there are some in the... That's weird. How did they miss it out? I did check all the other ones. All the other ones are there. I'll see if I can find one then. If not, I'll have a go at making my own, because it will bug me now that I know it's not there. But it's a really nice set. Paul, no photo in my set either. Have they ever said, have the record company ever said anything about this? Or is it just silence? David, I think they sold them individually. Right. Oh, I shall have to look, see if I can find one then. I wasn't aware of that. But it's a really nicely made set anyway. I mean, they did put a lot of thought into it. So how they made that mistake, I don't know. But I did pick it up quite cheaply, because I didn't actually buy it when it first came out. And I saw it for sale, and all they said was that there was a little bit of damage on the outside of the box, which is why it was cheap. And that damage is just there. So for what they wanted for it, I grabbed it before somebody else did. So, if you haven't seen it, there you go. So it represents all of Elvis's US albums in his lifetime, and they reproduced everything, including the bonus photos. I really like. I do have the original US Christmas album, but they've even reproduced the booklet. As you said, they have the bonus photos and the stickers. But as has been pointed out, for some reason in the UK, a lot of the clam bakes don't have the photograph, the bonus photo. So, yes, Mal, of all of those on here who've got this, only one's got the photo in. That's interesting, David, that they were sealed and didn't have the pictures in. Somebody must have they must have had somebody putting these things in, and somebody's done a batch and for some reason didn't include them. Annie, did you like Graceland? I would certainly swap it for my house. It's yeah, it's not as grand as you might think, but then it was his home. It wasn't a mansion in that sense. It wasn't a palace. It was his home. He lived in it day to day, if you see what I mean. So it wasn't as grand as you might have thought at first, but it did feel like a home. I would certainly like to live there. So yeah, I did like it. The decor wasn't what I would choose, but we're all different, and we know Elvis had extreme tastes at times. I'm glad that they changed it from the red of the mid-70s. It does look more tasteful with the white and blue. But yeah, I liked it. I see that our very disappointing Prince Harry has made some derogatory comments about it. He's gone massively down in my estimation. And I know within the British military, they just completely washed their hands of him. Please don't send him back from America. We don't want him here. Harold, they left out burning love in separate ways and no walk alone. Are there any of the Camdens in there? I didn't actually look. It's an interesting question. Didn't consider that. Boss G, do you have the This Is Elvis album? The original vinyl album, I do, yes. I can't remember if I've got it on CD or not. My memory fades. I do think the performance of American Trilogy on that album is the best one. I like This Is Elvis. The narrative was a bit weird at times, but it was Elvis most of the time, so what's not to like? Paul, tour guide put me off when at Graceland. Don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, I think Graceland now is suffering from a thing that I have a lot to do with military museums, which I love. But these days, the people working in military, it used to be that people working in military museums were ex-military. They understood it. They had an empathy with it. They knew what they were talking about. These days, it's people who've done museum science at university, and they couldn't care less if the museum is of porcelain pots or guns. They don't care. I think that's the problem with Graceland now. It'd be nice if people who actually were fans of Elvis were employed. But and I know there's been criticism of the security there, who've treated the fans quite badly at times, which I think Elvis would have been furious at. And it's a shame that something isn't done about this. But, this is the way of the world. White Horses, yes, there are Camdens, right? I haven't actually gone through the sets. I only bought it a couple of weeks ago. I haven't even looked at the book yet. This is a problem with buying all this stuff. I just don't find time. I've got things here that are still sealed from when I bought them, and I just haven't had time to open them and go through them. Harold, Graceland is small, but to him, place good. Yeah, when you think where Elvis was born, what he grew up with, it was a mansion with land. I always find it funny, of course, that when they moved in, Gladys kept chickens. Yeah. But it was his home, and it was a family home. I think that's something now that's being lost because it is being turned into a proper museum. I should imagine it's losing that sort of atmosphere. David, what was the very last Elvis annual? 1985. From my memory, they went later. Unless it's playing tricks on me. Good question. I'll have to have a look. I thought it went later, but Danny, the girl screaming on American Trilogy gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. Yeah. Harold, it's the new management that Lisa sold it to. Yeah. Unfortunately, with all things, as you get further and further away from its origins, people start to come in who are there for their careers to make money. They're not there because they have any empathy. Poor Gladys wanted a quiet life. Yep. Yeah. Ah, Paul David, it was, right. I thought it went later, but yeah. Your memory plays tricks over time. Several times I've very excitedly bought a record, rushed home to put it into my collection and found I already had it. And there have been times where I've not bought something and got home and found I didn't have it, to my great annoyance. I'll have to dig my Elvis books out. They're all boxed up in the attic. I remember books, which I assume are still in there. But, I keep a few out with me. What's that one? Private Elvis, which came with a CD and some photo cards. For some reason that stayed out of the attic. Can't remember why. I must have needed it for something at some point. So that found its way onto my shelf down here. And a friend of mine a couple of Christmases ago said, "Oh, I found an Elvis book you haven't got. Where's Elvis?" So in every picture, and they sort of relate to films and things, you have to look for Elvis. And of course they make it so that's Jailhouse Rock. So Elvis is in there somewhere and you've got to find him. So all of the pictures sort of relate to films and so this is Paradise Hawaiian style apparently. Where's Elvis? Well, that was a bit of fun. Do you have the Jerry Hopkins books? I do. They're up in the attic. Yeah. I'll try and get up there later in the week and dig them out. Let's see what I've got. I'm sure over the years things have gone missing. But that's what happens when you move about, especially when you're moving abroad. I don't actually keep many of my Elvis books down here. This place is awash with books. I have cupboards that have stacks of books behind stacks of books behind stacks of books. Because I'm a big military historian, and it got out of hand. It did. My wife's right. Boss G, are you looking forward to the new Elvis movie that's being made, Elvis and Me? No, I'm not. No. I think it can only do harm. I fear that the way they're going to tell the story is going to do harm. I regret that they decided to make it. Harold, do you have any tour books? No, I don't. Again, it's one of these things I looked at buying. I find it very difficult because when I start collecting something, I have this urge to complete it. So I have to be strong sometimes and not start. It's like the FTDs. I had to sort of say to myself, that's it, cut it off. I can't afford to collect FTDs. I'll buy them if there's one that I think is particularly nice. I like all the studio stuff, but the constant stream of live concerts, unless there's something particularly special about the concert, like he's performing a song that he rarely performs, or it's a particularly good performance, then I cut myself off. Because I mean, we all know we can't afford to buy everything. We'd love to be able to buy everything. White Horses, when is your Finland book available? I have a slight problem in that book was 20 years of research, and what I've produced is the book I want to produce. The company that wants to publish it want to make some, what I think are quite substantial changes, and I won't compromise just to get it published by them. So the alternative is I publish it myself. I did publish my first book myself. It would be nice to get a company to do it, but I have a lot of orders, people wanting copies already, so I have to make the decision. I've had some printed in hardback to give to family and friends. I've had some printed in soft covers just to see how they come out and what the costs will be. So I'll have one final meeting with the publisher and then decide. So I'll let people know. Desert Island Discs, your choices. Don't answer too difficult. Yes, I've told you. Every time I get asked what's your favourite, ask me 5 minutes later, I'll give you a different answer. I'd find it very difficult to go onto that show, to narrow it. I don't know how people do it. I couldn't. How can you choose one Elvis song over another? No, not touching that. But I'll give you a clue. It wouldn't be Old MacDonald or Queenie Wahini's Papaya. Rates higher than pineapple, pumpkin, or pie. My son's just self-published Amazon. Well, yeah. I did my first book through Lulu. My first book was a very obscure subject. The 3 awards that were established by the colonial government of Burma under British control. Fascinating story behind them, but a very obscure subject. So I did that myself. It got publicized by the Orders and Medals Research Society. So I did end up having to get printed and post off nearly 200 books, which was really good. And it's been recognized as the authoritative book on the subject, probably because it's the only book on the subject. But I did cover it pretty well. But my Finland book was just pure fascination with the story of Finland and Britain's involvement in its military affairs over the years. Again, a story that's not really been told, but has nothing to do with Elvis. "13 people. 2.5 hours we've been on. What have I talked about? I've been sat here waffling. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up? Running low on water. Where do you put your DVDs? I actually don't have many DVDs. So that's the way it is, special edition. That's the way it is, 2-disc set. That's the way it is, Blu-ray. I had on tour on DVD and I've lost it, but now of course I've got it in the box. And this, which should have been part of the box, outtakes from on tour. Over an hour of outtakes. Why wasn't this on the set? At least this. Of course, I've got a Lower from Hawaii comeback special, but I haven't bought the movies. I have thought about it. Of course, there are collections you can buy, which is an easier way of getting them. It's strange, but we've been spoilt. I remember as a kid when an Elvis movie was going to appear on normally BBC One or BBC Two, it was a thing. You know, people, oh, have you seen there's an Elvis film coming on? And you would make a point of sitting down to watch it. I did tell the story somewhere. I started work when I left school at Severn Trent Water Authority. So I went into work one day, opened up the newspaper, and it said, I forget the film, Roustabout, Elvis film on that afternoon. And so, like a naive idiot, I went to my boss and I said, can I have half a day, please? And he said, why? And I could have said, oh, I've got a toothache or got a doctor's appointment. I said, Elvis is on. And he laughed and he said, yeah, okay. And I look back now and I cringe. What an idiot. Of course, once you've got it available in your hands, you can watch it anytime. When do you make the time to watch it? So now, if Flaming Star's on somewhere or GI Blues is on somewhere, I make a point of sitting down and watching it. Whereas if I had Flaming Star on a DVD on my shelf, when would I sit down and watch it? So it's a very long way round saying I haven't bought them. Perhaps I should. I don't know. Maybe I've overthought the situation. That was a very long waffling answer, wasn't it, to a very simple question. So my DVDs are here amongst the CDs boxes. Yeah. One thing that I am looking to complete are the CD singles. Over the years I did buy them, but not all of them. So I have been going through to make lists to see what I need to complete. So I've got that, but then there's a very strange version of it with a pregnant lady on, which you may have seen. So I will start to get the this one's silver. Apparently there is a black version, but the silver one is rarer. It's just the one that was in the shop when I bought it. So I do want to start picking up the singles that I don't have. Do you have any non-CD vinyl Elvis memorabilia, plates, cups? I used to. I did. But again, over the years, it didn't move with me. I don't actually know what happened to it. But I did used to have, yeah, all sorts of things. I don't know if you had the little black radio with a figure of Elvis stood on it in a totally wrong outfit, the microphone in hand. I had that. Various framed small gold discs, not particularly well done, but What else did I have? A mirror. Cups. I've still got a cup. In fact, if I keep it at work, it's got the That's the Way It Is album cover on my cup. At the office. So everybody knows that's my cup. So I did have stuff like that. But I never hung on to it. Yeah. I still have the telephone. The single you just showed, the EP or 2-track single. I've just put it back. Where did I put it? I think it's the EP. Yeah, 4-track EP. And it actually says EP at the bottom. There's the clue. I still call it a single. So is the black version just the single then? I wonder. Does anyone have the Always On My Mind with the pregnant lady on the front? I must get it. It's a bizarre thing. I don't really understand the concept. 12th of Never. And the 12th of Never promo, which is pretty much the same as the released one. The promo for the first big box set. What else have we got? The sampler for Close Up, as they call them. Samplers, promos, demos. That's All Right, Mama. That's the regular one, not the promo one, which again I want to get. I am missing a fair few of the singles. Because another thing I did look at getting, but I've resisted it, are the cassette singles. The 2-track vinyl is now very collectible. The vinyl, yeah, I've got the vinyl. Was there a 10-inch of that? I can't remember. I've got all the 10-inch singles as well, but I can't remember if there was one for that. My memory. Pregnant lady, baby and mother are always on my mind. The mother's mind, right. Weird. But I must get a copy of it. I like Weird. I do wonder what goes through their minds when they come up with these things. Like I said, the FTDs, when they first came out, I did start buying them as they came out. So I do have the first 10 or so. But when it started going into concerts, I couldn't really see any justification for. I didn't keep up with them. It's the sort of thing, if I see a cheap one that I haven't got, I'll pick it up, like the 3 that I bought recently for £15 each. I only bought them because they were £15 each. It's like these. I bought that, never played it, never will. I have nothing against trying these things, but it's not what Elvis did. So, that was that one. Yeah. Can you show pages from the That's Where This Huge Book set? You just want to see me struggle to lift it down again. It is a big thing. Oh, dear. Oh my god. Right. You'll have to give me a minute. Now, there are actually two books. One is the rehearsals, and the other is the concerts. So, the rehearsals. Now, that's an interesting picture. Where in the film did you see that? So, have they filmed this? Is this another rehearsal that we haven't seen? I find it difficult to show these things. Right. So it goes through, contracts and things like that, and then what Elvis was up to at the time, recording sessions. So it sort of gives a background to the period, and then various releases. And then we get to the actual different rehearsals, and they give information on what was recorded. And then lots of stills. And we go to the next rehearsal again, so it gives you what was actually recorded. And it also shows you where they've been released before, the different tracks. And again, some of the releases and advertising around at the time. Now again, never seen any footage of Elvis wearing that hat. So have these been taken from photographic stills, or have they been taken from film footage? Well, obviously lots of stills that they can take from footage, but when I was going through it, I was trying to spot things that I don't remember seeing on any of the filmed footage, because this must have come from film. I don't believe that there was a photographer there taking all these pictures. Again, look at the microphone. Do you remember film footage with that microphone? Yeah, there are lots of stills. Oops. need to be a weightlifter to hold this thing up. So these are all sort of very similar. I'm trying to find some pictures that look a bit different. So here he is playing guitar. Have you ever seen a bad photo of Elvis where sometimes he looks ill, but have you ever seen a bad photo of him? And again, this is all playing guitar. We're so lucky that they made this film when they did, because I think they captured him at a real high in his life. He was comfortable, relaxed, he was happy. He was performing brilliantly. He looked fantastic, he sounded fantastic, surrounded by world-class musicians, and he really did seem to be enjoying himself. But there are an awful lot of these photographs, which suggests to me there is a lot of film footage that we haven't seen. Sat at the piano. Now, do they have the complete recordings of the songs when he was playing the piano? Because again, we've only seen snippets. Chapter 5, RCA studio rehearsals. Okay, look at what he's wearing. Have you ever seen any film footage of that? Did they film it? I don't know. MGM soundstage rehearsals. There's a lot of questions that this book leaves. Chapter 8, Las Vegas rehearsals. Now we know there's film footage of this, but there's obviously a lot more than we've seen. Oh, we're still on book 1. So this suggests to me that there have got to be hours of this footage. Does it still exist? Now I know that what was the film? It was a science fiction film that they filmed some what were remarkable footage that never got used, which was understandable when you hear what happened. And they wanted to make a special cut of it and include this rare footage that everybody knew existed. And the film canisters had been put into a mine in Romania, I think, because it was supposed to be this safe place, and something had gone wrong and it had all been destroyed. And it does make you shudder, like, damn, what was in there? Now, I'm not suggesting that this footage was there, but the best laid plans, because they specifically put it in this place because it was supposed to be safe, and it was all lost. Okay, so then we get to this rehearsal, which we know was filmed. Has everybody gone to sleep yet? Let's see where we get to. Okay, so here you can actually see the cameras set up, filming him. Why have we never seen all this footage? Chapter 10, rehearsal 3. Ah, this is the one. Rehearsal 3. Have you seen the lost performance video? Yes, I have. Yeah, I have. And that's the way it is footage. It's superb. Why some of that stuff wasn't included. But thank God it exists. But where is film of this one? Because I've never seen anything. He seems to be wearing some kind of thick black leather belt there. Now, if they filmed all the other rehearsals, why would they have not filmed this one? So that pretty much brings us to the end of that book. Oh, God. And if you can take any more, volume 2 is the concerts. So you can imagine what will be in this book. Lots of pictures from the concerts. A picture in the middle. I've always found that one very strange. The pose. I assume he was asked to strike the pose. They give details of the recordings, and then there are lots of stills from the shows and the long fringe. I can talk about Elvis all the time. We'll give it a go. We're up to nearly 3 hours. Oops. So as you can imagine, these really good quality photos cover the concerts. So there will be lots of stills that from footage that hasn't been shown. Let's move on. So here we have another concert. But thank God they filmed this. The performance of In the Ghetto that he does in the outtakes has done so much good. The numbers of people that I've seen reacting to it who didn't even know the song existed. Kerry, hello, I'm late. We've been going for 3 hours. We wondered where you were. I'm not going back and starting again. People asked to see the books from the That's the Way It Is set. I don't know if you've seen that footage of him walking through the hotel with a group of his guys. It's fantastic. The two girls that want to meet him and the one is just completely overwhelmed, and him waving to staff through the window. It's a brilliant piece of footage. Elvis certainly knew how to strike a pose. Let's see what other suits are shown. So there's a lot of black and white stills. I do think the simpler jumpsuits were the better ones. The designs did get out of hand, and I think they didn't flatter him, especially when he put on some weight. I think some of those jumpsuits just didn't do him any favors. Always good to see him playing the guitar. There is a chap on YouTube, Wings of Pegasus his channel's called. He's a guitar player with some band, and he does videos analysing guitar playing and singing, and he's very good. And he reacted to a comment that Elvis couldn't play the guitar. So he showed footage of Elvis playing Baby What Do You Want Me to Do? And he showed that Elvis absolutely was playing the guitar, and that whilst he wasn't, you know, a superb solo player, he was a damn good rhythm guitarist, and he could play the guitar. And of course, he suffers from the fact that he said in Elvis in Concert that he only knew 3 chords and he'd been faking it all along. Not true. He was a really good rhythm guitar player. Just look at those. I always think of the comments of Jerry Reed, the guitar player. I had a VHS video many years ago, and somebody asked him about meeting Elvis, and he said Elvis, the exact words, Elvis was, you know, the best looking guy he'd ever seen. And he said when he walked into the studio, I said to him something like, "Damn, I'm not gay, but I wish I was a woman right now," which I thought was a great quote. And Cary Grant said of Elvis that Elvis was the only man that could be described as beautiful. And coming from Cary Grant, I do like that suit, the red ladder suit as they call it. Jerry Reed was funny, yep. So again, we have lots of pictures that I don't recall ever seeing any actual footage, but it must exist. Elvis introducing the band. It's amazing to see that picture, how close and clearly visible the people were. Of course, the strange thing about his performances in Las Vegas was they were having dinner. It's a bizarre thing. I find it very strange. These people are sat having dinner and drinks whilst Elvis is performing. Hopefully they stopped serving whilst Elvis was on. So this set is the ultimate, that's the way it is set. Just a shame it's so damned expensive. I don't know if it's still available or whether you have to go to the second-hand market now to get it. Interestingly, it doesn't end in Vegas. Chapter 8, Phoenix, Arizona. So were there cameras at Phoenix? He's got a green belt and scarf on there. And again, there are lots of photos, which suggests to me that they're stills from film. Or was there a photographer? I don't know. But it's one of those sets that you won't regret buying, even though it's obviously expensive. Now, this is Phoenix, Arizona. There's a sign saying "Welcome to Phoenix." Ooh, where's he gone? Bottom picture, man with a film camera. So there was filming going on in Phoenix. So did they film the show? And then it ends with all the various, that's the way it is, releases. I do have a lot. Releases and posters from around the world. Oops. And then the discs themselves are housed in this folder. So although it's expensive, I think it's worth every penny. Excuse me while I put them back. Don't want to leave it lying around. Right, it can go back up. Oh, God, broken out into a sweat. Right. Harold, as Elvis would say, he fake it not playing the guitar. Yeah, that's his. He would always downplay himself. He probably thought he couldn't sing as well. Super Atlantis, I've always enjoyed your videos. Your voice is... Is that a way of saying I put you to sleep? Thank you. Kerry, the price of that set is way up, and I can imagine. Yeah. Always think, this is what I've always said. I've never regretted a purchase, but I'm haunted by things I didn't buy. It's not easy because these things are a luxury. They're not important. People have got families, got bills to pay. You have to live in the real world. I'm lucky. You know, I've got bills to pay. Things are not easy, but I'm in a position where I can indulge my hobby. Sometimes I overindulge my hobby and have to worry, but I don't regret it. Elvis has been a very big part of my life. Growing up as a kid, I had, in many terms, an easy life. My family wasn't wealthy by any means. My mum and dad worked very hard, sacrificed a lot. We never went without. Of course, when you're a kid, you don't appreciate it. You think that's how life is. You don't realize that there are many, many people out there who have it much harder. So I have absolutely nothing to complain about. But I was quite a lonely kid, even though I had brothers and sisters. They were totally different to me. I was always about books, history, learning things. They were about going to discos and that kind of thing. So I sort of kept my own company a lot, and Elvis became very important to me. It was like somebody was always there. I don't know if that makes me sad or what. Paul, no problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If there's anything else I've got that anybody wants to see, then just sing out. My wife says the same thing about my collection. Harold, he said in a 1956 interview, no, can't sing, but somebody likes it. Yep, that was him. As they sort of pointed out in the film, he thought nobody would remember him. It's astonishing, isn't it? You'd have thought he'd had a clue. But he was so cut off from everyday life in many ways. And yet, we know that he regularly would go down to the gates and the wall to say hello to fans. That he saw people out on the streets, and he always made a point of posing for the photograph, of signing. There's a story, I forget where I read it, that he was walking backstage with some of the guys, and a young man was there with his camera, and he was going to take Elvis's picture, and one of the guards sort of pushed him out of the way and said, no. And they said Elvis stopped in his tracks, and he said, hey, don't do that. And he went back and he posed so that this kid could take pictures of him. That says everything about him. Never played the diva once in his life, never played the victim. David, would you ever consider selling your collection? Would I consider it? No, I can't see myself ever doing it. I think I was 11 when this started. 1973. I can't imagine. I've never sold an Elvis record or CD. No, I can't see it. I have explained to my wife that, some of this stuff is very valuable, some of it's very common. I have actually thought about writing a list out with what needs to be sold through a specialist and what can just be let go in case anything happened to me. But I haven't got round to it because, of course, we all think nothing's going to happen to us. But my wife's cancer scare sort of really brought home, and then my mum dying last year really has sort of hit home. So I have been cataloguing the collection, which I haven't done for a long time. And so I have actually put a column in on my database, and I'm going to highlight the stuff that needs to be sold through a specialist, so that if anything did happen, she would know and she wouldn't get ripped off. To me, it's not about the money. My Sun records, I wouldn't sell those. But there will come a day when obviously I won't be here, and good luck to whoever gets to sell them. Harold, any big Elvis on tour books? No, I don't. No. The FTD books are fantastic. When you see people showing them, I would love them, but I missed the boat on those. It's like the vinyl. When they first come out, I bought the vinyl. And then again, I went abroad, and it sort of fell by the wayside till I came back. And then when I saw what the prices were, I have bought vinyl. I buy all the new ones. I've bought some of the older ones when I've seen them at a reasonable price. But I'm not aiming to get them all, even though I would like to. What's your favourite piece in your collection? It has to be the Sun records, just because of what they represent to me. You know, as a kid reading that Complete Elvis magazine and seeing those Sun labels and thinking, oh my God, I'll never be able to get one of those. I would, you know, getting a 45 under 78 was one of the real dreams come true. So I think they would have to take first place just because of what they represent. Numerous stories of Elvis's empathy. That's what makes him stand out. Yep, absolutely. There is the footage from on tour of him meeting the girl who she got leukemia or cancer, and the way he talks to her, and you know, signs her pictures and that, and says he'll sing a song for her. And of course, she died not that long after. Yeah. David, me too. I have a high-end CD collection. Yeah. When you've sort of spent your life collecting something and you feel you've built, you know, it's not just an accumulation, you've built a collection. To let one thing go from it. As I said before, I collected British campaign medals because I enjoyed the history and researching the individual that received them. So I had a very big collection of medals to men of the Gloucestershire Regiment, my home county regiment, a very famous regiment. And I built a superb collection that had medals going from the Napoleonic Wars right up to Northern Ireland. And it got to the stage where I had everything realistically. I'm never going to be able to afford a Victoria Cross. Realistically, I had everything. And I sort of, the interest started to wane because the hunt and the wanting to complete a certain set, if it's not there, I find it difficult. And it came to the point where I had such a great collection and so many people wanted things from it that I had to take the decision that now's the time to sell. Selling that first piece was almost like selling a child. I found it very difficult. But once that had gone and the collection was no longer complete, and of course the money was very helpful. Turns out that medals were a really good investment. But I have no intention of ever selling anything. Where I have bought doubles, I'd rather give them to somebody, try and encourage somebody. So as I said before, if somebody says, oh, my young nephew likes Elvis, and I would give them this, tell them to play this, tell them this is, you know, the first record in their collection. And I've given a few things away here. Now that I think I'm now up to 670 subscribers, so I have thought maybe 750 will give away something else. Last time I gave away a sealed FTD. I think it was Girls, wasn't it? And that came about because I'd pre-ordered it, and they started arriving, and nothing happened for several weeks. And I contacted, it wasn't the Elvis Shop London, I contacted them and said, where is it? And I didn't get a reply. And I thought, oh, bugger. So I quickly went onto the Elvis Shop London and ordered it. And of course, they both arrived a day apart. Then I thought, well, that's all right. I can give one away. So I'll have to think of something for 750 if I get there. Super Atlantis. I have some albums still sealed. Yep, me too. That is mainly because I still don't have a record player. So most of my FTD vinyl is sealed. most of my vinyl for years was just stored as it was. It was only like 4 or 5 years ago that I bought plastic sleeves to put them in. And then, of course, people start saying, oh, these plastic sleeves will damage your records and blah, blah, blah. Bugger. Nothing's ever straightforward. So some of the CD sets are still sealed, but that's because I bought them when they came out on vinyl. Then I bought them on cassette. And then they came out on CD and I bought those. Well, where I've got multiple copies, I don't see the point in opening them. But it was nothing to do with sort of keeping them sealed. I do get quite lazy. Somebody was asking me why some of my vinyl is in the sleeve and some isn't. And it isn't because I think it will, you know, reduce ring wear on that. It's just sometimes I can't be bothered to put it back. So there you go. Harold, he sang You Gave Me a Mountain for Her. Yeah, he didn't actually sing the song she said, I remember. She asked for one song, and he actually sang a different... But he did say this is for... whatever her name is, I can't remember now. He did say this is for her. How are we doing now? 3 hours and 17 minutes. Nearly 10 o'clock. We'll have to call a close soon. I've got to get up for work in the morning. Mal, I'm back. Good win for the Reds. I can't say good win for Leeds because they never win anymore. I'm more of a cricket fan than football. Test cricket. Probably because my dad was a Yorkshireman. So as a kid, we used to have a test match on BBC Two on the television with the sound off, and test match special on the radio. So big fan of test match special. Love it. And it hasn't been bad being an England cricket fan lately. My daughter wants to know what time it is there. It's just about to hit 10 p.m. So I shall have to be going pretty soon. Have to be up early. Get to work in the morning. Harold, any Aloha from Hawaii books? I think I do have one. But where it is, I'm not sure. Yeah, I did buy one. I bought it because it had a CD with it. But I'm not sure where it is. I think the CD is here somewhere. Yeah, that's the CD. I can't remember. I've got the book somewhere. You might know the book from the CD. It's not a huge book. I actually only bought it to get the CD. Kerry, 4 p.m. It's difficult to know what time to do these things because you do it at one time and then people come on from Australia and say I couldn't join. I suppose I could sit here all night, then everybody gets a chance. I've just been sorting out all of my if I can pick them up. These are all the American EPs, which I've been sorting through, so they're up on the top at the moment. Oh, somehow, how did that get in there? These things happen. So that's the UK HMV Love Me Tender. I prefer that cover to the American one. I'm not sure why that's in there. I was probably doing something to do with the with the Love Me Tender EP. I remember what it was. I got the French one and I was comparing them. Yeah, so this is all the American ones. Oops. All the UK ones. I have a selection of the French, the Japanese. The main ones I don't have at the moment, which I would like to get, are the Australian ones. I do have a few of them, but they produced a lot of EPs. Just trying to think what I've picked up recently. As I said, it's been lately. It's been mostly Japanese soundtracks. I've had a bit of a kick on. Paradise Hawaiian Style. And on the back, of course, you've got all the song titles in Japanese and English. If you've ever seen David's Elvis in Japan, where he does translations of some of the song titles, they are very funny sometimes. Of course, a lot of the Japanese are gatefolds. So you have the lyrics in English and then liner notes. Really well done. So as usual, us British fans missed out. We really were badly done by the RCA UK. Even when they finally did a picture sleeve single, they did the same picture on 6 or 7 singles. I go through kicks where I sort of choose a particular album and look for international releases of it. So for Paradise Hawaiian Style, that's an Australian pressing. I've got the American and UK pressings. But, my favourite one is still this one. No Paraíso de Hawaii. Brazilian, I think, if I remember right. I'll have to remember to put it back in the right place. I keep my copy of Elvis Sessions. I think there is a more up-to-date one, but that's the one I keep for reference. Harold, I have the EP just for you. Yep. You really need to get a record player, David. Yeah, I know. It is a bit ironic to be surrounded by all this vinyl and no way to play it. Paul, no obies with your Japan releases. Some of them do, but I don't particularly look for them. Obviously, they're more expensive, especially the early ones. So if there's one with it on, then yeah, I'll buy it. But it isn't a deal breaker. I can't remember. I don't think any of my soundtracks have got an Obi on. And that's the older ones are rare. Trying to think. I know I do have some with them on. Let's see. I recently got where is it? Raised on the Rock. I can't remember if it had the Obi or not. No, good times. But it did have the bonus photo inside. It came with the Japanese pressing. Danny, don't understand why a photo from Fun in Acapulco was the cover for Paradise Hawaiian Star. Apparently it's because he put on weight. And that's what I understand. Same with the Frankie and Johnny cover. That's what I've heard. Ooh, sounds like my wife's going to bed, so I'll probably have to wrap this up. And I've got to be up about 4 tomorrow, so thank you for everyone that's stuck with 3.5 hours. Oops. We shall do this again at some point. I can't really sort of advertise beforehand a time because I'm never sure. But thanks for everyone who took part, and to those who sat and watched and didn't take part. You should really join in. No need to be quiet. No need to be embarrassed or shy. Just say hello. So thank you to everyone. My 666 subscribers. Who was the 666? Should we be worried about them? It's 670, I think. So, yeah, Paul, we'll get in touch about that. And thank you to everyone. And good night, good evening, good morning, goodbye. Till next time, bye for now. Then how do you stop this?